Hey, I'm so excited we get to talk about something new today. I mean, most of the time that you and I talk, and you're now and this is Tu Mullins. He's now at Jet Home Loans, which is super exciting. All kinds of great stuff going on. But we get to talk about something that we don't usually, that you and I don't usually talk about, which is new construction and the benefits of buying new construction and what we get to do there. Because there's some really, especially here in Northeast Florida, as fast as we're growing, there's some really exciting things happening. But I think, I just want to jump right in and kind of, I know where everybody's, tight on time. So let's talk about the top five reasons to buy new construction in Northeast Florida. And then we have a bonus question at the end. So, all
Okay.
right,
Sounds like a one.
the first reason, and this is so huge, I can't begin to talk about how huge that it is, and that is the builders have the ability to offer massive incentives. So talk to me a little
Absolutely.
bit about the incentives that are being offered and what people
Yes.
are. And by the way, these incentives are with any builder. You do a lot with Dream Finders, like Jet Home Loans is owned by Dream Finders or Dream or they own Dream. Correct me, just fix me.
We're the yeah. So Jet is the lending partner for Dream Finders in Florida and throughout the United States. And but you're right, yeah, with any new construction, oftentimes, your seller is, not a traditional seller, an owner occupant, or even an investor, but it's the actual builder for the home, right? So in terms of lending, what's allowed in terms of concessions or seller contributions are again going to be dependent upon what type of loan the buyer's using, which loan program. Are they using some sort of government program like FHA or VA, or are they going to use a conventional loan? Maybe they're making a larger down payment, or maybe it's an investor that's purchasing the home. And so that's going to be kind of the basis of where we start to see what the seller is able to do. Now, the builder may be offering incentives across the board. Oftentimes they are, maybe for specific homes or for specific communities where they're offering interest rate incentives. You see that advertised a lot. We know that a 30-year fixed rate today is going to be in the high sixes, potentially even at seven or above. You see advertisements for builders offering interest rates lower than that, lower than the market, some at 4.99%, some even lower than that, with incentives maybe to buy down the interest rate. So just looking at that as a starting point oftentimes is where, buyers that are in the market may kind of start to get their first interest in that as they've been maybe looking for some existing inventory, but they've kind of gotten priced or gotten qualified and seen where that payment's at. And then they've seen something maybe advertised with a lower interest rate, which is a good incentive to start looking. And then you start kind of marrying that with the other benefits of, a new property, brand new on top of that with a lower interest rate, which spells lower monthly payment. And then you can kind of continue on from there.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at and you've already got incentives when you go to build new. But when you and by the way, and Dreamfinders does a great job and they have great incentives. Their goal is to sell you this house. So it's kind of what I'm seeing, and the conversation I keep having is sellers, no matter who they are, like, but especially builders, because they have the ability to do it, are looking for ways to make this as easy for you as humanly possible. They want you,
Right.
so they're going to help
Yes.
as much as possible. So
Yeah.
a lot of times you have to know to ask for that help, which is why you need a professional that helps tell you to ask for that help. But yeah, so the interest rate buy downs, getting in at that low, and that's a fixed. If you're at 4.99, a lot of times that's a fixed interest rate. Like
Correct.
if
And so you kind of touched on that too with the buy down. The fixed interest rate, for example, being advertised at 4.99% on certain inventory, they may be able to offer incentives on top of that to help kind of get things started, maybe in the first or second year. Oftentimes we see that advertised as an interest rate of 2.99 the first year, 3.99% the second year, and then years 3 through 30 fixed at 4.99%.
which
So
is
not just helping you stay below where the market's at long term, but also giving you that extra kicker the first 2 years for the buyer, for the seller, excuse me, to subsidize the interest payment and reduce the payment that much further. Again, to help sell the home, which is what the goal is, and also to make it more appealing and a little bit more accessible to the overall market with more buyers.
Yeah. And so, and kind of the second point about this with those things is it does matter if it's a already constructed home, like with new construction, with any of the national builders. It matters if it's an already constructed home or if it's a to be constructed home. If you're going and picking out your lot and picking out the floor plan and how do you want it laid out and all and picking out everything, there's going to be incentives for that as well. But a lot of times that I find, and please correct me if I'm wrong, those incentives are going to show up in maybe closing cost assistance, but design center credits. Like
Right.
they're going to give you a bucket of money to go spend in the design center to personalize that house where you're not coming out of as much additional out of pocket to do that. If it's already
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's another, which is another incentive, right? That comes in the form of a seller concession. That's where, you're getting some credit towards what is essentially closing cost. Which, the net effect of that for the buyer is reducing the out-of-pocket expense that you have along the way or at the closing table by however much money that you've negotiated into that. So another huge incentive.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where you see, like we see with builders, like if you're shopping for resale, most sellers, your average typical seller is going to be more flexible on their price. A builder isn't necessarily going to be flexible on their price. They're gonna if that's a $500,000 home, that's going to be a $500,000 home. They would rather give you closing cost assistance. They would rather buy your rate down. They want to, and which is a good thing. They want to maintain the price integrity of that neighborhood. So they're going to find other ways to incentivize you and make it easy for you to buy that property.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and that doesn't show up in just the actual price. And those things show up in ways that are phenomenal for you as a buyer and really make it simple for you to get into those homes. All right, so that's kind of points one and two. Now we get into the other thing with new construction. And a lot of times when you and I have spent so many years working together and working on renovation loans. And renovation loans are an amazing tool, but they're difficult. They're hard. You've got to get in front of so many things. You've got to plan so much, plan so much in advance, get your people in place, find the contractors, all of that. You don't have to do that with new construction. It's all already done.
Right. Yeah. And when you're talking, there's a few different ways that you can do renovation. You can do that from the time of purchase, or you can do it once you already own the home. You can refinance and renovate. But the difference really between the two with new construction is that it's more of, the personalization. You get that same effect, but it's not you actually renovating it. So you have this agreement already on paper. You're dealing directly with the builder that's going to, build the home from the ground up. So you've got your opportunities there to still kind of put your personalized options to it. Maybe you've chosen a floor plan, you've chosen your location, maybe your lot, all those things. But you, from the loan side of that.
Not for nothing, like your covered patio was under your roof line. You didn't have to cover a patio, and now you're creating
Right.
yeah, you're creating different potential hazard areas and things like that. It's all there, it's all done.
Right. Yes. And the loan structure is very different too. Whereas, you would be incorporating these, a third party contractor into this. Instead, with new construction, you're dealing directly with the seller who is the builder. And so you can still take advantage of the interest rate incentives if they're available, like we mentioned, with the new construction versus pricing it as a renovation loan, which is going to add extra risk because the home is going to be manipulated post closing. So from a lender's perspective, that is a higher risk category, and you see that offset with the interest rate. You see that offset with additional closing costs and additional expenses that you don't need to incur when you're dealing directly with the builder. You can negotiate the contract directly with your agent and the seller the way that you would traditionally with an existing home, but still be able to take advantage of the incentives and add your personalization.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's just all the benefits, none of the headache, which is fantastic.
It's nice.
Um, and then we get into some of the really important nitty gritty in this one, especially in the state of Florida, as we talk about, especially, coming off of 4th of July weekend where we've seen, weather events coming. And we do live in Florida, homeowners insurance.
Homeowners insurance, yeah, potentially the absolute one of the best reasons to look if you're looking for the best premium for hazard insurance, then that would be new construction. A new home, you've kind of you've put yourself in a position to pay the least with A-rated coverage, just because the home is recently constructed, brand new everything, built to the standard that is right now and most relevant for insurance. You see dramatic differences between the cost to insure a newly constructed home versus an existing home, regardless of its size, somewhat regardless of the location. The age, just being brand new, is just a place where you see a huge variance between, you can compare a similar home, similar footprint, size house existing to brand new, and see for yourself that way. But again, that just leads from the buyer, what is the effect of that? The impact of that is, again, your monthly payment is going to be more in line with the lower cost versus having a more expensive home to insure. So that helps put downward pressure on your payment. That year to year renewals, that helps there, and it kind of just helps you protect your home.
Right. I mean, that's a new home for a while. It's
Yes.
it's not just the first year. That's gonna, yeah, you'll see that continue for the first, I don't know. I don't want insurance people coming back to me, nope, 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 and telling me that I'm wrong when I don't want to list a number of years, but I would think, at about 10 years is when the insurance
Several into the future. Yes.
yeah, yeah. Um, and yeah, and I mean that's the benefit of that cannot be understated. They really can't. But then the other thing that you get are the warranties that come with new construction.
Right.
I mean, as we know, repairs are expensive. And even if you, in a lot of my purchases, I do have, either the buyer or the seller purchasing a home warranty for themselves, for the property, because it makes that everybody lives in that property different the first year. That is
Right.
different than the builder warranty. The builder warranty is they are warranting the work that they've done, and they're probably, by the way, still constructing in that neighborhood. They don't need bad reputations for all of this.
For sure. Yeah. Most builders are going to offer multi-year warranties on workmanship, materials, down the road to kind of, offer you that added protection in your investment, and also, kind of be there in the event that it's needed, which is, above anything else, peace of mind, especially for, I mean, really not even for just for first-time home buyers, anytime home buyers. I mean, it's just not something that anyone's ever trying to really deal with.
Yeah. Um, all right. So, I mean, to me, it's like we've got incentives on quick move-ins. You've got incentives to do a new construction build, picking your lot and going from dirt. You're not doing renovations. Your insurance incentive is huge. Your builder
Right.
is huge. There are so many. I mean, those to me are the top 5 reasons to buy new construction in Northeast Florida. And we've got amazing neighborhoods coming in. One of the things that we didn't talk about in that top 5 reasons is most of these new neighborhoods have phenomenal amenities, like world class. You've got the saltwater, a lot of times the saltwater pool, but you've got those pool facilities, the gym facilities, the tennis, the pickleball. That we're not we're not building a lot of new golf courses in Northeast Florida because you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a golf course around here.
Right.
But yeah, seeing all those amenities that come with your new home, it is phenomenal. But we need to kind of talk about the flip side of it too,
Yeah.
and it's a very good point, is there's a reason not to buy new construction. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Like, not for nothing, it's not always the right answer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's some considerations, there's some things that you'd want to, kind of be thinking about. And I think it would kind of pertain to you as the buyer as far as what your plans are short term, what your plans are long term, whether it's where you're going to live, whether it's your plan with the property. Is this going to be a home of yours for many, many years to come? Or is this just a short term stay? I know me personally, I would consider, if there was possibilities that I may need to relocate sooner than later, or if there were possibilities that I may need or want to sell the home. Sometimes you may know that's on the horizon, sometimes you don't, but sometimes you may. Whether that's for work related, if you transfer with your job, whether it's if you're active duty in the military and that can come calling at any time. Um, you know, you may be able to kind of weigh in on some of that, and I would consider that too, especially considering that you could be in a situation where if you are looking or needing to vacate or sell your home to where you're in a position to where you're now competing with new construction.
Right.
Or maybe you're competing in your own neighborhood with homes that are newly constructed and yours was newer, but isn't brand new any longer. And you may or may not be in a position to where you can offer similar incentives that the builder was able to initially that you took advantage of.
Oh, right. Buying down that rate and those closing costs and, and closing cost incentives, giving a bucket of money to you to cover your down payment and closing costs and things like that. Really easy to do for, well, relatively easy to do for the builder. That can be a lot harder for you as a seller when you're now competing. So yeah, this is why you need to really evaluate when you're buying what your goals are. If you're
Right.
looking at what your long-term goals are, and having that conversation, because it is not the right answer for everybody. It is the right answer for a lot of people. And there's really good reasons, but there's also really good reasons to be in some of our more established resale areas. Um, and we can go over that next time because there are some really good, a lot of times it's location, location, location too, because they're
Right.
not building any more, land at the beach.
Mm.
You're not building brand new subdivisions in Jacksonville Beach or in Ponte Vedra Beach. That's done. You may get some little infill stuff there, but that's done. Those are all there. And
Right.
is there anything we missed?
It's a lot there. A lot of good reasons. A lot going on. I would say, one thing I would add, price comparison. A lot of what I've seen when you look at it from a price standpoint, you can see new construction competing against existing inventory from a price standpoint, from a starting asking price. That's something I've experienced and seen a lot of over the last several months now with buyers looking at, purchasing around median plus these incentives. And then also, considering where the market's at, here we are in July 2025, and rates really, we've had some up, we've had some down, but we're kind of sitting pretty close to, if not right at the same place we started the year interest rate wise. So haven't really moved a whole lot in terms of
Uh-huh.
that.
And you are so much more in tune with this than I am. But the things that I'm reading about from the people that are much smarter than I am are all kind of saying, and we're about this is what it's going to be. We're thinking we're not looking for massive decreases in interest rates. We're not looking for massive increases. We're just kind of like this is kind of how we're gonna get through the next quarter, probably the rest of the year. Does that is that about what you're seeing?
I mean, it tracks with where the market's been and just kind of where the resistance points are at in terms of some of the technicals that are behind driving interest rates. Things need to happen that just haven't really happened so much if you're expecting rates to really take a plunge. We haven't seen that in the broader economy, and there's still some uncertainty around a lot of areas of the macro environment with unemployment and GDP. The Federal Reserve hasn't really done much at all this year. And now, as we get later into the year, when you start looking at the forecast for interest rate cuts in that regard, saying that there may, or may not be one or two cuts between now and the end of the year kind of puts you in a position where you're like, okay, well, time's kind of, we're past halftime. And, if we're looking at two, one of those is going to need to be sooner than later, right? So I can't imagine there being any more than two. I don't know that there's enough time to do that, to kind of let some of the things play out that they'd like to see play out, to get data and then make a decision on it after the fact. So yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like, this may be where where we are. It is where we are for now, and it may be very well where we end up here in a few months too.
All right. Well, I think we're about out of time, and I know you've got to run too, but thank you so much. It's always so
Thanks,
good
Jeff.
to talk to you, to talk through this stuff with you, and I really appreciate your time.
Always great to connect. Thank you.
Got it. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.